Hello class, this is Dr. Long. This video is specifically about your term paper. I would encourage you to watch this carefully and to save it for future reference as you're working on it in the coming weeks. Now, your term paper is due in 3 weeks from today, and that's Thursday, November 15th at 11:30 p.m. And you'll turn it in the same way you turned in the short essay assignment we had shortly. Namely, there's a drop box in D2L for you to turn it into. So that should be pretty straightforward. There is an extensive guideline on D2L about your term paper. You can find it under content on our D2L page. I would highly urge you to go ahead and take a look at that guideline, to either download it or print it out, and to read it very carefully. I've tried to make it as detailed as possible so that, particularly for an online class, my expectations are laid out pretty clearly, and I give you what I hope are a number of helpful suggestions on how to write the term paper from beginning to end. Now, your term paper is, you may have already begun reading already. I hope you have. Your term paper is on this book. It's called The Silk Roads. Zhenru Liu is her name. What you are to do for that, if you haven't already, is to begin reading. And the first place to begin reading is with the introduction. It's a very short introduction about the Silk Roads. It gives a lot of comparative information that you should find very useful as an introduction. And once you have read the introduction and have a pretty good idea about it, at that point you'll need to choose your term paper topic. And if you look on the guideline, the first 2 pages give you 2 options for your term paper. And please do not do both of those. That's far too much work than you really need to do. So choose one of those topics, whichever one you think is the most interesting, whichever one you think you can answer the best. There's 2 options there. And both options, they both have a series of interrelated, interlinking questions. And what you need to do for your term paper is, in approximately 4 to 6 pages, go through and answer those questions. Answer all of them. And the best papers will give specific examples in answering them, right? Examples from things you've read in the text. Now, in addition to the introduction, as part of your term paper, you need to use at least 4 primary source documents. The way the book works, again, is there's the introduction, which gives you a pretty good overview of the Silk Roads, and then there are a number of short primary source documents that come after that. So you need to choose at least 4, and you can use more than 4 if you want, to help answer those questions. And some documents are particularly well suited to some aspects of the questions. Now, to make things a little easier for you, if you look under each option, I've given you several example primary source documents, including the page numbers, that you could use to answer each question, or each option rather, for your assignment. So you can go to your guideline and go ahead and find those. There are certainly others that you could pick from the book as well, but that should make things pretty straightforward for you in doing that. Also, for your term paper assignment, as you're reading the guideline, you'll notice I give a number of tips. As you read, I would encourage you to take notes, to underline as you go. It may be useful for you to make an outline. Many students find that useful. It's not required. But certainly making an outline and following that as you write makes the assignment easier. It's more work on the front end, but it saves you some work on the back end. Make sure that not only that you have specific examples, but you have a clear thesis statement. And a number of you on the short essay assignment did a very good job with a thesis statement. Some of you could work on that a little bit more, but that's something that's very important in writing this term paper as well. Also, another important thing for the term paper, and the guideline spells this out, is your citation style. When you're summing up information and citing the pages, or if you find a direct quote that makes a point you would like to have in your term paper, you need to cite where you got that information from, right? So for history uses what's called the Turabian or the Chicago manual style. It's the same thing. If you go into your guideline, I give you detailed examples of how you're to do it. You'll need a bibliography at the end of your paper that lists all of your sources. And likewise, as you're citing while you're writing it, you will need to use either footnotes or endnotes, and that's pretty easy to do. You go into Microsoft Word, insert, and then go to footnote, or you can change that to endnote. Either is acceptable. And then you'll follow how Turabian works. And again, the guideline gives you directions to that. I give you all kinds of different specific examples from different sources, and you can use those. Please do so. That's what they're there for. And that should teach you, in essence, how to use Turabian. Also, as my guideline indicates, when you're using quotes, don't simply drop quotes in to drop quotes in. Use what is called the ICE method. Introduce it, quote it, and then explain it in your own words, instead of just throwing quotes into your paper to have quotes. And the guideline gives you examples of that. It will make your paper flow better. It will make your paper sound better. Now, speaking of that, in reading your short essays, some of them were well written. Some of you can work on that. What I would really encourage you to do with your term paper particularly is to edit it. And what I mean by that is read it aloud one time before you turn it in. And when you read a paper aloud, you can often catch awkward sentences or things that simply don't make sense. And in the process, you should rewrite them to be clear. Now, I certainly will grade your papers for things like spelling, grammar, and the whole purpose of that is not to be overly picky. I certainly will not grade you at the level of an English professor. The purpose is to improve your communication skills. A paper with fewer grammatical problems, fewer spelling errors, is quite frankly clear. It makes a point better than one that is littered with those sort of mistakes. So please watch that as you go. And again, a really good way to find errors in your own paper is to read it aloud. We do have a tutorial center if you want to bring those in and have someone look at it. They won't write your paper for you, but they will certainly help you out with some advice. And I give the information about the tutorial center on the guideline. If you need any help from me, I'd certainly be available. You feel free to email me during all this, and I will be happy to give you some pointers or even look over a rough draft and give you some advice. Now, obviously, the sooner you could do that, the better. I do keep pretty busy, so please, if you want to do that, it is optional, but if you do want to do that, don't wait to the last minute. Now, lastly, I want to remind you about my policy on plagiarism. Now, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, I think, in general, but one thing I do not tolerate is cheating and plagiarism. And so my policy for this is fairly stark, I will say. For students who are caught cheating and plagiarizing, the penalty is not simply an F on the paper, but an F in the entire class. The syllabus lays this out in great detail. There is a reminder of this on the term paper guideline. If you have questions, and I don't say this to frighten you, the purpose is to protect the integrity of your work and your grade, because I know the vast majority of you do your own work. But if you do have questions, if you're puzzled about what all that means, please contact me ahead of time, and I'll be happy to explain it. Chances are, if you're just a little puzzled, you're probably not doing anything wrong, but maybe you need a little bit of clarification. So, just to say that as a reminder, not again to frighten you. Well, I hope this video has been helpful, giving you a little more insight. Again, we have 3 weeks to go to the term paper. What I would strongly urge you to do now is, if nothing else, to begin reading. Make sure that you read the introduction, that you have at least 4 primary sources ready to go that you've read and made some notes on to write your paper, and then begin working on it. And as always, do not wait until the last minute. I've scheduled this paper to be due before Thanksgiving on purpose. That way you have it out of the way before the Thanksgiving break. As with the last essay assignment, I will grade them and post grades as soon as I can. And speaking of that, I would encourage you to go back and look at some of my comments on your short essay. That should give you some more indication of things you did well and things you could improve for the term paper. I intended the short essay to be sort of a dry run, a practice run for your term paper. So please use my comments to help you in that regard. All right, well, I hope this video has been helpful. Again, if you have questions, let me know. And again, don't wait the last minute. Go ahead and begin working on your term paper. And I'll certainly remind you about its due date as we go along. But best of luck to you, and if I can help you, please reach out to me. All right. Thanks for watching this.